Hey guys, it's me again. I'm coming on tonight. I just wanted to say hi to all of you. Thank you for joining in again. The topic tonight I'm going to be talking about is something that I've noticed a lot through doing my channeling work. For those of you that may or may not know, I am a channeler and I offer services, and I have different clients that come to me to do work, session work. Let's put it that way. Anyways, I've been noticing a trend with those of my clients, and I know that I can speak to this very well because uh, I went through it for very, very many years, and I got through it through a lot of life situations. So if I can help you guys get to a place where you can just start doing the shadow work now without having to go through these hardships, I definitely want to be the one to help you guys out with that. Because if woulda, coulda, shoulda, I don't know if I would have been who I am without the life situations, but I sure know that I didn't want to go through them. So if I can help you guys challenge these things now and get through them before you have to have life situations show you, I'm definitely all about that. So without further ado, I'm going to be talking about scapegoats. Are you a scapegoat? How do you define it? I'm going to give you some scenarios, and if any of these things ring true, you probably are or have been scapegoated many times in your life. And the second one is, are you following a sacrificial lamb mentality? And the reason why I want to talk about these things is that usually these types of mentality can not allow you to get to your sense of strength that you need to be getting to, especially in this time as we're rising and we're trying to, as a collective, get to a higher vibrance and move to this, new way of being. So if you're trying to find your inner strength, I find that if you can get yourself out of these two things, it's very helpful. The reason why I brought up the channeling thing too is because I noticed, like I said, my clients are going through this, and I'm always trying to coach them after our sessions as to the shadow work that may be involved. So why I keep bringing up shadow work is because it's very, very imperative in spiritual and personal growth. We all have holes in our soul that we need to fill, and we need to fill them by doing shadow work so that we can break through and get to know ourselves fully. And it's probably going to be an ongoing thing, but I've done a lot of this work, so I think that I'm very good at helping people. Also, I was on a very cool podcast with Spiritual Sparkle, a woman named Tanis from the other side of Canada. Found me on Instagram, and she did a podcast with me because she did get a session with me, and then she liked what I did, so she decided to talk to me on a podcast about it. So if you guys want to check that out, I put it in the description. But also at the same time too, why I'm also mentioning this is because if you do need any type of help with shadow work, you can find me here on YouTube, or you can find me on Instagram as well. You can find me. My name is at higher_healing, or at HI_GHER_healing. So I'll put those all up. I'm sure you know how I do. I just like write them up. I come on and I vogue. You know what I mean? So without further ado, this is how you can tell if you're a scapegoat. And this is how you can tell you're a sacrificial lamb. You can be both. You can be one. You can be neither. Now, the thing I must say is that in the second part of this video, after I describe some scenarios that'll help you identify if you are one, I will go on to talk about the triggers that you may have to face. And if you find that in that second part of the video, you're getting mad at me, most likely it's because I'm hitting one of those triggers. And why triggers are very explosive and great is that if you can kind of figure out what that thing is that I pissed you off with, most likely that's the shadow work that you've got to attend to. So finding a trigger is very powerful, because if you do find that I'm pissing you off about something and it speaks to you and you're like, oh, this girl doesn't know what the hell she's talking about, I triggered you. You found it, and now you can work on it. So let's get into this. So a scapegoat is someone who gets blamed profusely for wrongdoings. And you could be a great person. You could be a very strong person. 9 times out of 10, a scapegoat tends to be a sigma, a beta, who is striving or needs to strive to become an alpha. And the reason why I say that is because a scapegoat tends to usually be someone who, to the seeming world, on most levels, is a very powerful, strong person. But a scapegoat tends to have flaws, just like anyone else. We all have flaws. I had tons. And you know what? I became a scapegoat many, many times, because where I was strong, I was weak in different ways. So I was actually in a sigma, moving to a beta, trying to attend to an alpha. And a lot of the reasons why scapegoats exist, or why you may be one from time to time or multiple times, is because you're actually more okay taking those proverbial beatings from the world than you are facing your fears of success and or facing the truth of your alphadom, if that makes any sense. And the reason why I'm saying that is because when these people throw you under the bus, it hurts, it stings, but it goes away. And then it happens again, maybe a year later, a month later, whatever the case may be. But you're strong enough that you're like, I can get through that. But if you are someone who's repeatedly facing that, it's because the world's trying to show you, hey, it's either you stay where you are in that cycle of being a beta or a sigma, and it's trying to push you into being an alpha. And why I say you're scared is because realistically, and I was scared too, trust me, you're scared that it's easier to take those proverbial throws under the bus than it is to have to face people, call them out, confront them, or just withdraw your energy completely so that you can no longer be used by people as a scapegoat. So a scapegoat, you'll find them even, it happens at work, it happens with friends, it happens with your family, and it happens with loved ones. And I'm going to give you different scenarios, okay, for all of them. And I'm just looking at my board, so just, for highlight points. So at work, you might find that colleagues, that if they are ever brought into situations where, let's say, they didn't send that email, or they didn't send that file, or they didn't fix that board that, the caved in roof happened, they tend to call out your name because they've probably found a camaraderie with you, and they know that principally you are a person of truth, of strength, and of solemnness, and you will bounce back. Whereas most people who throw anybody under a bus would not be able to take the brunt of that weight of that bus that they're throwing you under. So if you are someone at work that you find colleagues tend to use your name to kind of allay any type of proverbial weight that's being put on them for doing misaction, and they're able and capable to say blame you, most likely you're a scapegoat. So that can be happening in the workplace. And it could be something as simple as this. I'll give you an example. I had a friend named Liz. We used to work together. She was a big talker, okay? She didn't do a lot of emailing. So when her lawyer used to come over and give her these jobs and tasks verbally, she would accept all these tasks. And then when this said lawyer ended up getting in crap because she didn't do her job properly, she would throw Liz under the proverbial bus all the time. And I kept telling my friend Liz, hey, you got to write those emails to that lawyer so that you have proof that you're not doing anything wrong. My friend Liz would turn around and say to me, oh no, she's not doing this to me. And at the end of the day, she was. So when Liz didn't do her emails, unfortunately, Liz was let go. And that lawyer was later let go too. But the point was that the real person who wasn't a good worker was the lawyer. And the real scapegoat in this situation was my friend Liz. And she didn't do anything wrong. The only thing wrong she did was have an open heart and have a soft spot for the lawyer. Now, that's one scenario. How your friends will do it. Friends tend to know a lot about you. They tend to know your insecurities. Now, they themselves also are part of the world that you are in, or the same friend circle. And sometimes there is, again, this alpha, beta, sigma type of strategy that happens in all places. It could be in high school. It could be as adults. It could be in male and or female relationships. Everyone knows who the alphas are, who the main people are, the most popular people in school, etc. So you have a good understanding of what that is. What will happen is that because you have insecurities, maybe that you have voiced to this friend group, as you call them for now, you have divulged these things. And the thing is that they may find you strong. Most scapegoats are strong in all other aspects. But the thing is that they know where your weaknesses lie. So whenever those situations come up where they're going to get in trouble with this peer group that they're in, they know that you have a weakness. So what they will do is they will deflect and say, oh, don't look at me. I didn't do anything wrong. You remember that, let's just use me. Ashley is the one who said A, B, or C. And then the whole peer group will start to look at Ashley. That makes you a scapegoat. So if you notice that your friends tend to always put blame on you for things that get you in trouble with the rest of your peer group, you're most likely the scapegoat of that group. Okay. Then it happens with family members in the same way that it does with friends, because they know the insecurities and they can use it against you. Usually this happens a lot in siblings. I myself was an only child, so I didn't have this, but a lot of my friends that I see are being scapegoated all the time by their siblings. It's usually the sibling that's the black sheep. It's usually the sibling that's the most rebellish out of the group, or doesn't conform, or doesn't, amount to as much as the other siblings, that tends to be the scapegoat of the family. And when I say family, it's because the parents equally do not do enough investigative understanding of their own children, and they allow the other siblings to continuously bash this one sibling and say, oh, remember that Johnny back in 2005 and his drinking problem, or Johnny hasn't amounted to anything and he's 40 years old, or Johnny's still living at home. Like, they will continuously, whenever things like, let's say for example, Sarah, the sister, ends up breaking down in her relationship and the mother gets all up in arms about it, she will turn to Johnny and she will say, oh, well, at least I got married, not like Johnny who's been sitting on your couch for the last 40 years. They will do a pivot, put everything onto Johnny, and then the mom will be looking at Johnny going, yeah, she's right, you still haven't got off that couch yet. So the thing is that now the mother is no longer looking at Sarah, she's looking at Johnny. So if this is happening to you, you most likely are the scapegoat of your family or your sibling grouping, etc. It's usually based around things that you feel insecure about, because those things are parts of you that you've never worked on. There's that. Now, lovers can do this too. Don't get me wrong. I've seen them all. I've had this happen to me. I've been a scapegoat in my relationship since 1985. What will happen in this case is that your lover will throw you under the bus to defend themselves. Like, let's say again in a peer group, this used to happen to me a lot. When somebody had to defend their love for me, okay, in any way, shape, or form, I noticed that they would tend to always allow the others to make fun of me, to demean me, or to basically say that I am said thing that the rest of the group is saying. Okay, so like, let's say for example, somebody just pipes up a joke and says, oh, Ashley's a really loud talker. Your lover might turn around and say something to the effect of, oh yeah, I know, she never shuts up. You may in that moment think to yourself like, oh, they're just like bantering back and forth with the rest of the peer group. But really what your lover is doing is they're not standing up for you, and they're not saying the things that will defend you. And the thing is that as a scapegoat, they know that they're abusing your love because they know that you're strong, you can take it, and your love for them is so strong that you'll absorb the pain and move on. So if that situation has happened to you, you most likely are the scapegoat, or you're being scapegoated by your lover. And for all of these dynamics, what I will say to you, as someone who has suffered in every single one of these dynamics, except for the sibling thing, I just had it with my own parents, is that you are the strongest one. And that is mainly the reason why you get scapegoated. And why you continue to be scapegoated is because you don't realize your strength. And the thing is too, is that you're letting your insecurities control your existence. And that's where shadow work comes in. So for example, where I said to you that these triggers, you're like, oh yeah, what insecurities? I'll explain. At work, why Liz allowed that lawyer to run her is because she wanted to be seen as a good worker. She wanted to be admired. She wanted to excel in her position. So she thought that if she did A, B, and C for this lawyer would build some loyalty. And that's not how anything works in this life. And it's the same with the siblings, it's the same with the friends, and it's the same with the lovers. You will continuously be the scapegoat because, like I said, until you do your shadow work, you're going to be a beta or an alpha who will repeatedly get beaten down because you are petrified of change. Okay? Petrified to look at your shadow aspect of your insecurities, to then challenge those insecurities and fix them and make them no longer insecurities that you are harmed or you twinge at or you feel guilted into. So if anything I've said to this point has triggered you, most likely those are your insecurities. The next part of this is the sacrificial lamb mentality. And you have to understand that I still haven't got to part 2. So this is sacrificial lamb mentality. The sacrificial lamb is the one who feels like they have to bear the cross because of some guilt mentality that is affixed in their brain since they were children and or middle school, but usually pretty young, or through relationships, etc. It can happen over time. It can be gradual. But once you are affixed in the sacrificial lamb mentality, this is what will happen. You tend to tell yourself a backwards self-confidence that the reason why you are suffering through all of this is because it's what you deserve. You tell yourself a backwards confidence that you're strong enough to bear it. You tell yourself a backwards confidence that you being who you are and sacrificing yourself is what is necessary and needed for any of these dynamics to continue and to thrive. And it's a backwards mentality because in every single one of those scenarios, you end up stretched, you end up exhausted, you end up never pursuing your own wants and your own dreams because you're always worried about other people. You're always worried about carrying their burdens versus your own. So I will break down again how you can recognize this in work, family, friends, and lovers, and by my scenarios. Let's say at work, you're always getting slammed by your coworkers. Your coworkers will come to you whenever they need something, and they know that you're most likely going to want to help them because that's who you are. You're a helpful person. Now, the thing is that coworkers will do that, bosses will do that. They'll slam you with all this work, and they know it'll get done because they know what your insecurities are. So there's that. Usually what the insecurities are in that case is that you want to be seen as successful. You want to kind of be not so much a brown noser, but you want to be thriving in this workplace, and you have a weakness of work ethic. You don't want to be seen as lazy, and you don't want to be seen as somebody who can't keep up. But realistically, what's happening is that you're going to get bombarded with all of this work to the point that you get stretched so far that you look like a bad worker, that you end up maybe losing that job and or getting fired. Because the reality of all of this is that none of this is for your own good. You've never even thought of yourself. You're like, I got to worry about all these people. And the reason why you're doing that is because you told yourself that you deserve it. That that's your cross to bear. And that's a lie you tell yourself every day. There's that. Family. They, again, know your weaknesses, much like your friends. They know you're soft in certain parts. And the thing is that they use these doubts, they use these fears, and they use these inadequacies against you. Because the reality is that when things get tough, they know they themselves cannot bear it. But somebody has to pay the price, and somebody has to get the work done, and somebody has to step up. And usually, much like the scapegoat, a sacrificial lamb will bleed for people, will do anything to the nth degree for people. Why? Because they want to be seen in a good light. Lovers will do this. You will tend to be in a relationship where you're giving 80% and they're giving 20%. Your son and your husband will be sitting on a couch while you're slaving away on a stove or taking out the garbage. And if you're the man in this scenario, your wife and your daughter will be sitting on the couch while you're building the deck in the backyard. It can go either way. So it doesn't matter if you're female or you're male. Most likely they will be reserving, okay, their affection for you, starve you of this affection, because they know that that is your weakness. You want to be loved. You want affection. You want these things so badly that you're willing to work extra hard to get them. It's a lie. Okay? So here comes part 2. Okay? Now, how you eliminate being either of these people comes with shadow work. Now, people think that shadow work is something that is in the depths, that it's darkness, that it's evil, that it's parts of yourself that are nasty. There are parts of yourself that are dark and seated, like violent and angry, and that is not it. Okay? Simply, shadow work are the parts of yourself that your ego desperately hides away from you. Because should you look at them, should you analyze them, should you fix it, you will step into strength. You will step into your wholeness. And the ego does not want this. Okay? So for all of you that are like, oh no, I'm great. I'm all love. I'm all light. Let me tell you, you got blemishes. You got skeletons in your closet. And you're not going to be loving and lighting in the darkest of darkest places because you don't know how to navigate your dark side of yourself. And the dark side of yourself are all those skeletons that you don't want to look at. And the skeletons tend to be your inadequacies. Okay? So for example, if you are a scapegoat, like I said about the betas and I said about the sigmas and the betas not wanting to be an alpha. The reason why you don't want to be an alpha is because you feel like it's scary to take the brunt of what it means to be an alpha. If you're an alpha, you've got to confront people. If you're an alpha, you've got to really stand your ground. And if you're an alpha, you may lose people along the way. You might have people come at you to test your alphaness or to test your strength. Now, the thing I will let you know is that, yes, that is hella scary. Hella scary. Because you're telling yourself as a beta or a sigma, oh, you know what? I only get thrown under the bus like once a month or once a year. I know it'll happen again because I'm not changing my mentality. I'm not changing who I am at all. So it will happen again. This is your subconscious talking to your conscious self. And you're okay with that because when your subconscious says to you, or you could step into your power, you shake and you quiver at that feeling of what it means to take on that responsibility in its entirety. And that is your shadow aspect that you're not looking at. That is your weakness. That's the hair that breaks the camel's back. You are scared of your greatness. You are scared of stepping into it. You are scared of the responsibility. You are scared of the brunt of the weight that you will have to showcase to the world. Scarier. You might be saying, oh, you're full of shit. If I've triggered you, most likely it's because that's your problem. And I don't mean to say that in the slightest. I had to work through this shit. I cried. I don't know how much I screamed having to go through all these things. Really taking a deep dive like that hurts. Really taking a deep dive and figuring out where your weaknesses are hurts. And if it doesn't hurt, it's not shadow work. Just letting you know. Now, when you're looking at the sacrificial lamb side, that's a totally different ballgame. When it comes to this, like I said, it's a warped sense of confidence. You tell yourself as a sacrificial lamb, these dynamics that I'm in, that I'm always being abused with, my abusers love me. My abusers need me. If I don't do all the work, who would do it? It wouldn't get done. It wouldn't be done as well as I could do it. Those are the lies you tell yourself. And you want to know why? Because really the subconscious is telling the conscious self, hey, you know what? The reason why you're not facing these things is because you're scared. And you know why you're scared? As a coworker that takes on more work, you're scared that you won't be valued if you just do your job. You're not good enough to just do your job and be welcomed for doing your job and be appreciated for doing your job. You don't need to do more. You don't need to do less. You just need to do your job. And it's okay to be selfish like that. It's okay to not be the brown-nosing best in class. It's okay to not be the one who gets worked on the most or called on the most. And I'll tell you why, like I said before, you will exhaust yourself and end up losing everything anyways. So the thing is that there goes that subconscious and conscious. You'd rather lose everything anyways than have to change. And what that means is that when your boss tells you, oh, here's 5 emails that need to get done after 5 o'clock, and you need to get home and take care of your family, and you say to your boss, oh, okay, I'll do it. You're scared. Why shouldn't you have the right to go home to your family? Why shouldn't you be able to do what that lawyer is about to do and hit the bricks and get out of there? Or whoever. I'm just using lawyers because that's the world I was in. You're too scared to say, no, sorry, Joe. I've got a family to feed. I'll get to that on Monday. It's a simple statement. What's the worst they could say? You're scared that you're going to be not valued for your whole entire existence as a worker. You're thinking that in that moment, you're going to get taken apart and fired on the spot because you're not willing to say to yourself, I am all these things. I am a good worker. I deserve to go home to my family. So there's that. Why your family will continuously do this is because they know your soft spots. And for example, you will be more scared of losing your family and your friends and your loved one, if that's the case, than you are to change. Because you basically tell yourself with your family, and I did this too, friends included, lovers included, that you are not worth their love. The reality is that with family, friends, and lovers, it is hard. But the reality is that you are not doing the shadow work because you are not thinking that you are worthy of love. That is it. That is all. You think that if you don't put 80% and they do 20, or if you don't take the abuse they give you, they're going to leave. That scares you more. You're like, who am I without these people? You're too scared to look at that. You're too scared to face that truth. Who are you without these people? Well, as someone who's done it, I'll tell you who you are. These people, friends, family, lovers, that do not appreciate you and don't love you for who you are, giving your 100% or giving your 50%, which it should be in any relationship, are not good for you. You shouldn't be with them anyways. And you should get rid of them. And the reason why I say that is because a whole person who loves themselves truly, honestly, in the way that you would deserve to be treated would never, ever accept that treatment. And this took me years. I just dropped all my friends like 3 years ago. We're talking 30 years that it took me to learn this. But if you currently are coming on and you are in any way, shape, or form in these scenarios, and you are either a scapegoat or a sacrificial lamb, you need to trust that you are enough. That if they don't like it, to hell with them. And if you're a scapegoat, step into that alpha freaking power, because you know what? Yeah, you might get tested once, twice, 3 times, but it will never happen again after that. Once you assert yourself and who you are and take that strength back, no one will try to cross that barrier because they know what you're going to do. And if they want to be in your energy and if they want to be in your life, they better come correct and they better love you properly. And that's what anyone should want. And that's what anybody should strive for. And the reason why you need to get this part together is because you cannot find God, the angels, all of these things within yourself if you're not willing to look at yourself in the truest light, which is your shadow. You have to go to those scary parts in order to see the light. So if you do like what I'm saying, please like, please share, please subscribe. If you want to know how to do the shadow work, I may do another video specific on dissecting. Or if you guys ever want to reach out to me, I'm really good at shadow sessions. I'm very good at dissecting people's triggers, people's fall downs. And we all have them. If you say that you're a perfect being, then get off my channel, because I think the imperfect is perfect. Okay? And I'm not saying get off my channel, but I mean, like, you don't belong somewhere that's, I'm always about growth. So if you're not willing to grow or take a good deep dive and look at who you are, then maybe you don't belong here in the first place. But I do love you. And if you do need some help, or if you think that it'll be useful, you know, give me a holler, DM me on Insta. I'll put all the details in the description. Love you lots. Have a good night.